Welcome to another talk titled Why Buddhism? Why study and practice the Dhamma? Okay. One fine morning, a farmer came along to meet the Buddha because he had heard that the Blessed One had this uncanny ability to resolve people's difficulties. He could point them in the right direction to resolve those difficulties. So this fellow traveled for hours to come and meet the Buddha because he was having a fair amount of difficulties. So once he approached the Buddha, once he saw the Buddha sitting there under the tree, came along, bowed, sat down in front of him, and after a bit of chatting and introducing himself, he asked the Buddha, he said, "My Lord, being a farmer is not easy. Sometimes it rains too much and it affects the crops. There are other times when it doesn't rain so much, and that also affects the crops. And farming is a very difficult profession. Apart from that, I have a family. I'm married to this incredibly wonderful woman that I adore. The only thing about her is that she keeps criticizing me. And I don't like criticism. And then there are the kids. I ask them to do this, and they go ahead and do that. And then there are the in-laws, and you know what in-laws are like. And he went on and on and on. The Buddha very patiently listened to all that this fellow had to say. And finally, once the farmer had exhausted all the things he wanted to talk about, he asked the Buddha, "So, my Lord, please tell me, how can I rise above all these difficulties?" And the Buddha eyeballed him and said, my man, I cannot help you." And the guy was stunned. "Cannot help me?" "Yep, I cannot help you." "Then what good is your wisdom if you can't help me?" And the Buddha said, "Listen, each and every one of us has 83 problems. 83 problems. Usually more, but let's just talk about 83 main ones. And there's nothing you or I can do anything about. Nothing. Because you just solve one problem and another one takes its place. Yeah, 83 problems sprouting up all the time. So then why do people come to you if you can't help them? Well, because I can help you with the 84th problem. Now, what's the 84th problem? And the Buddha says, do not want to have problems. Brilliant answer. Do not want to have problems. Almost everybody detests difficulties. Everybody detests setbacks, obstacles. No likey, no like. Yeah, and so most beings are forever doing their best to not look at these difficulties if they can avoid looking at them, or they try to beat them into shape, or they do their best to run from them. But no matter how fast we run, they keep pace with us. Just as we cannot outstrip our shadow, no matter how fast we run, the shadow stays with us. We cannot outstrip these challenges. We cannot vote them out of existence. No can do. Our unremitting efforts in rearranging and manipulating the world around us to suit our preferences only leaves us exhausted at the end of the day. Not the best idea. We want people to do whatever we say. We want the respect. We want the adoration. We don't want accidents to happen. We don't want our friends to betray us. We don't want people who we love to fall sick or to die or to leave us. We just don't like these difficulties. But even on the surface, it should be apparent to us that this crusade towards wanting life to meet our prejudices and opinions is futile. It's totally futile. No can do. It should be obvious to people, obvious to us. And yet, we resist what is inevitable. Challenges, inevitable. The Buddha had challenges, Christ has challenges, and everyone on the planet has had and keeps having challenges because it is an intrinsic part of life, intrinsic. So we need to wake up and recognize the fact that every conceivable difficulty we experience, every conceivable illnesses, accidents, relationship fiascos, you name it, every conceivable difficulty we experience arises from spiritual ignorance. Spiritual ignorance, which blinds us to the true nature of reality. No seeing properly. So what is this blindness? What are we not seeing? What we are not seeing because we are spiritually illiterate, misinformed, is just how profound we are. We're not seeing our true nature. We're not seeing the true nature of the world around us. And we're not seeing our relationship to this incredibly glorious world we live in. When these three extremely important realizations are not in place, we will breed suffering. By default, when we don't know what we truly are, when we really don't know the true nature of the world we live in and our relationship to it, how can we not suffer? So, in the absence of a higher perception of reality, in the absence of a higher perception of reality, we will veer in the direction of wrongdoing in its many forms, not realizing the dire consequences we inflict on ourselves when we choose that path. Good. Suffering coming. Why? Because universal laws and principles will simply not allow us to engage in wrongdoing without us incurring severe penalties. No will do. When we transgress these laws and principles, we are inviting severe penalties upon ourselves. Now, these penalties may not arise immediately because of how karma works, the complexity of it all. It may not arise immediately, but just as surely as night follows the day, they will arise. Look at the world around you. Just look, open eyes and look. The poverty, the illness, the crime, social unrest, wars, addictions, abuses, relationship fiascos, the environmental destruction. These are the severe penalties incurred by us when we engage in wrongdoing without any thought of the dire consequences. We're not just inviting to ourselves, we're making sure of them. Praise the Lord. So, my dear virtual friends, these difficulties, these unimaginably painful realities have not arisen from a mind that is attuned to the sacred nature of reality. Nope. These painful realities have emerged from an unrefined consciousness that is steeped in delusion. Steeped in delusion as to what happiness is and how best to achieve it. We're looking for it in all the wrong places. It is only through being spiritually informed, not spiritually misinformed. It is only when we are spiritually informed, especially through the deep insight into the unquestionable origin of our distress and difficulties, unquestionable origin, where it springs from. Yeah, the distress and the difficulties we experience, only when we can really see where it's coming from, can we correct ourselves and gain total freedom from everything that ails us. Total, undiluted, pure, crystal freedom. But we need to see what the origin is. Where is the origin? And we need to blast it out of the water. So, what is the origin? Spiritual ignorance. But what is spiritual ignorance, really? It is the monumental misperception of reality. The monumental misperception of reality. It is this misperception that keeps seducing us into doing things the wrong way. And when we do things the wrong way, it is inevitable that we will end up in the ditch. That too, head first. Oh, yes. Okay, we end up in the ditch when we engage in wrongdoing or doing things the wrong way. And how do we scramble out of the ditch or the crevasse? It's just one way, not two ways, one way. It is through the dedicated, diligent, devoted study and practice of the Dhamma. Yep, the Buddha Dhamma. Because the Buddha Dhamma offers us a crystal clear, highly proven, timeless means for extricating ourselves from the ditch. Simple, simple, simple. Yes, it offers us the means for correcting this vision, this misperception of reality, because it shows us how to reconstitute ourselves and our worldview for the better. To reconstitute ourselves and our worldview for the better means to learn how to envision things correctly, not from distorted perspectives. To reconstitute ourselves and our worldview for the better implies sharpening our perception. Sharpening our perception to view reality from its sacred dimension, not from this world of appearances. Nah, that's not where it's at. We're not seeing the true nature of things, because if we were to see the true nature of things, we would be in this state of ecstasy and love. But there ain't no love anywhere inside. Well, little bit. When we see life from the right perspective, it is inevitable that we will know from the very core of our being that our obsessions towards pleasures, pleasure, possessions, accomplishments, and accolades. Yeah, pleasures, possessions, accomplishments, and accolades. This obsession that drives the droves out there in the world. We see that these realities have always to be placed secondary. And what is to be placed as primary? What we become from our actions. These realities, pleasures, possessions, accomplishments, accolades, and whatever else we're after, these are only secondary goals. Our primary aim, our primary goal during our brief time on this planet has to be the refining of our character. Why is this more important? What we become from our actions. Why is this more important than the action itself? Let's take a look. Our character determines our destiny. An unrefined character equates with a painful destiny. It's a natural law. Whereas a refined character equates with flourishing, thriving in the world, beauty beyond measure. Yeah, first reason. Our character determines our destiny. If we wish to craft, if we wish to enjoy a brilliant destiny, it cannot emerge from an unrefined character. It requires a brilliant character. Natural law cannot be disputed. Secondly, it is not our pleasures, possessions, accomplishments, and accolades that travel with us into our next rebirth. It is our character and the actions that have molded it. Yeah, karma. The actions that have molded our character. When these actions are refined, we have nothing to worry about when we pop. Because once we pop, we're heading for a brilliant destiny, rebirth. And in that next rebirth, we will have acquired the skills that will protect and prosper us also in the next life. Safeguard us and prosper us. Whereas once we pop off and our character is entrenched in wrongdoing, the dire consequences of that wrongdoing, like our shadow, will come with us. And we will be showered upon with a hot bath of suffering. Nobody likes it. Are you understanding, please? Yeah? It is not all these things that we are craving for right now that follows us into our next rebirth. What follows us into the next rebirth is what we have become and the actions that have molded us. The consequences of those actions, like our shadow, come with us. Can't run from them. So, to experience lifetime after lifetime of a brilliant rebirth till we awaken, it is imperative for us to know what we need to focus on during our brief time on the planet. Not Netflix, not shopping sprees, not vacations where we pander to our hedonistic tendencies. This is secondary. Primary is the polishing of our character, because it equates with our destiny. Wakey, wakey. So, my dear friends, once again, if I may kindly repeat myself, why Buddhism? Why should we invest our precious time studying and practicing the Dhamma instead of watching Netflix or going on shopping sprees or doing other silly things which we think are so important? Why is it important for us to really be fully focused in the study and practice of the Dhamma? as taught by the Buddha. Among the plethora of benefits, you can't count those benefits, countless. Yeah, among the countless benefits of deep study and practice of the Dhamma, let's look at just two. The two primary ones, which contain everything else. All the other benefits are right inside. Okay? First and foremost, it corrects our faulty worldview. It corrects our monumental misperception of reality. And the pain-laden actions which emerge from this misguided view of reality. It corrects that. Yeah? And when it corrects that, we are able to perceive things not with our intellect or our emotions, because intellect and emotions, they serve us to a certain degree, but they don't penetrate, they don't have the penetrating power to see beyond appearances. So when we correct our faulty worldview, the second supersonic benefit that arises is we're able to perceive life from an intuitive perspective. X-ray vision, long-term vision. Yeah. Intellect and emotions don't have that penetrating power. They don't have the bandwidth to guide us correctly. Yeah. Look at the mess in the world. Intellect and emotions. No intuition there. None. So when we perceive things correctly, we no longer allow negative, self-limiting, self-absorbing, or self-centered perspectives to guide our actions. Nope. No more negativity, no more self-limiting, no more selfish actions. Nope. Because they lead to suffering, massive suffering. When we perceive things from an intuitive perspective and approach and respond to the world with the reverence and the devotion and the love that it deserves, then and only then do serendipities come cascading into our lives. Serendipities, all kinds of opportunities open up for us. And our flourishing in the world is virtually guaranteed. Help and assistance and good fortune starts just pouring into our lives unbidden. Why? Because our approach and response to life is skillful. And it is skillful because we see things skillfully. If we don't see things skillfully, how can we possibly act skillfully? No can do. Right. You got that? Why Buddhism? Corrects this monumental misperception of reality that veers us in the direction of doing things the wrong way, which places us firmly in the ditch. We don't like life in the ditch. Yeah. Okay, right. Now let's look at what this means exactly. Okay. What really is this misperception of reality? What is this faulty worldview? How would you describe it? faulty worldview. A brilliant description of this wonky worldview. We can compare it to a wheel that is out of kilter. You understand what a wheel out of kilter means? Wonky wheel. If we were to see, or if we see this wheel as one that performs an important function, like the potter's wheel. Have any of you done pottery? I did 2 years. Okay. A potter's wheel, where you put the clay, and then you mold your vessel, yeah, your pot or your vase or whatever it is. You mold as the wheel turns and the clay revolves. Beautiful pot or whatever. Now, this out of true wheel, out of true, no spinning smoothly. Yeah, out of true wheel. It doesn't just create high blood pressure, stress beyond measure, and so forth. When we're trying to create a clay vessel on a wonky wheel, yeah, it doesn't just create deep hardships, great hardships. Trying to, it makes it virtually impossible. No can do. When I was young and still had my hair, and at that time I had hair up to my, in the hippie days, right up to my bum. Yep. Bangles, bangle necklaces, hippie. Yeah. This was 1973, I believe. Yeah. Master B was still young. I was in art college in Lagos, 4 years, getting my bachelor's degree there. First 2 years in design college, we had to study pottery. That was one of the classes, pottery. And there were these potter's wheels, quite a number in the class. And there was this one wheel that was out of kilter, wonky, not quite right. And the faculty kept promising to fix it. Empty promises. Never did get fixed. But we had fun on that wheel. Nobody in their right mind would ever approach that wheel to make a proper vase or a pot or whatever. That was just for playing around with, because you put your clay on it, flies off. Or you put your clay on it, you build some monstrous reality or some creative art piece if you are Picasso. Right? Everyone stayed away from that wheel because it was impossible to craft a beautiful pot or a vase or a whatever on it. Another example, suppose on this beautiful Sunday morning, you wish to go for a beautiful bicycle ride in the park. But you forget that the other day you had an accident and your front wheel was now a little bit wonky. Get on the bike with that wonky wheel. Are you going to have a nice, relaxing ride on that? No matter how hard you try to be relaxed, that's what's going to happen. You come back stressed if you even go into the park with that. All right? Virtually impossible. A faulty worldview or a monumental misperception of reality makes it virtually impossible for us to be happy in this world, because nothing satisfies. Nothing. That's what a wrong worldview is. And that's what the teachings correct. We want to be happy. We want to be peaceful. We want to be in love. We want to experience bliss. We want so many things. But for as long as we're engaged in wrongdoing, we can go and pray to all the gods in the universe, go on pilgrimage from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth, but nothing's going to happen. Nothing. So, a faulty worldview keeps us in a state of perpetual unrest, perpetual dissatisfaction. Nothing satisfies. Nothing. Yep. It bothers us every single day. Nothing satisfies us. Something or the other keeps irritating us. Faulty worldview. Have you noticed how when people are young, in their teens and 20s, they have a sparkle in their eyes and they have these dreams of success and all the things that they're going to accomplish. But then when they reach mid-30s and above, have you noticed the sparkle is gone? Have you noticed that they are jaded? Many people are jaded. Look around you on the streets. How many people do you notice who have sparkle in their eyes, a brisk, crisp walk to their gate? Yeah, their gait is beautiful. The way they walk is beautiful. They exude happiness. How many people do you notice like that? Yeah. Why aren't these people, once they reach their 30s and above, why are they so disillusioned with life? Where does this disenchantment come from? It wasn't there in our youth. It comes from looking for happiness and fulfillment and joy and laughter and love and flourishing in all the wrong places. All the wrong places. Shopping sprees, gazing at TV for hours on end, vacations that do nothing really for us. It comes from looking for happiness and fulfillment and flourishing in all the wrong places. And so, the majority of people end up in zombie zone. What is zombie zone? This is when our heart is in one place and our life is in another. Here we are in a marriage we don't want to be in a career we don't want to be in a situation we don't want to be in. And yet, we are in it, stuck in it. Our heart wants to be with somebody else or somewhere else, some other career, doing something else. There's a split. This is our reality, but this is what we long for. But we just don't know how to get from here to here. We're looking for happiness in all the wrong places, and those detours don't lead to where we want to be. No can, no can. Nothing satisfies. Here's another example. Think of the people earning in millions of bucks, euros, dollars, pounds, Japanese yen, those currencies that count. Yeah, there are so many people earning megabucks, and they still engage in nefarious activities, scamming people, causing grief to millions. Nothing satisfies. They have a beautiful home, they have a good family, they're earning big bucks, they have their private jet, and they still engage in scams. Nothing is enough. Can you beat that? That's a wrong worldview. But the universe is looking. It will not spare us the dire consequences of doing things the wrong way. We will not be spared. Cannot happen. We will be zapped either in this life or in those to come. The zapping will take place. No two ways about it. These are natural laws that we cannot transgress without suffering tremendously painful consequences. Wake up. All right, now that was a horror story. Now, the thing is, it's not all doom and gloom. It's not all doom and gloom. Okay, because we do have moments of great pleasure, joy, love, intimacy. Oh, it's there. What a number of us do experience that. Not everyone, pretty much, but lots of people do experience joy, love, laughter, so on. I granted. And while we're experiencing these elevated states of consciousness, these elevated experiences, while we're experiencing them, we do our best to remain marinated in them. We love to get marinated in these yummy experiences. But have you noticed they don't last? They don't last. Not as long as you want them to. The winds of change, they're gone. And they can go at any time. Think of what happens when you visit a friend for his birthday party and you have a great time. Oh, fantastic time. Booze, smoothies, whatever. Okay? You had a great time. And now it's time to go home. So there you are, walking to your car, and you notice that the wheel, you have a flat. What happens to your cranium? Do you feel elated? Woo! I've got a flat tire. Nope. Do you take it in your stride? Usually not. Some flowery language emerges from your mouth, and negative mind states start doing the Macarena in your cranium. Notice it next time. Right? Negative mind states are just hopping around in your cranium. Here's another example. You're enjoying this beautiful weekend. Lovely weather. Everything is perfect. Oh, so nice. But then suddenly you hear this loud something in the kitchen. You run to the kitchen. Oh, the kitchen sink. Oh, it's flooded. Pipes burst. It needs attention. What happens in there? Let's put on the music and dance, honey. No, there ain't no music. There's no dancing, except in your cranium. Those negativities. Faulty worldview. And what is the faulty worldview here? We're just not fixing the 84th problem that the Buddha pointed us towards. What was the 84th problem? Do not want to have problems. This is life. We just need to flow with it, not resist it. Flow with it. Accept the failings, people's failings, life's failings. Whatever happens, it's happening. Yoo-hoo! Let's polish the character. We need to see beyond the failings that trigger us. Because only then are we centered enough to transform whatever difficulties come our way to our advantage. When we're flustered, no can do. We need to stay centered. So it's impossible for us, really, to aim for a higher form of living without improving the way we see and approach things, without a higher vantage point from which to perceive reality, without a higher vantage point to perceive reality correctly. It's not possible for us to aim for a higher form of living that really nurtures us. Not possible. So, how do we really correct this wonky worldview? It is by remembering to keep the main thing the main thing. And what is the main thing? Correcting our misperception of reality through the deep study and practice of the Dhamma. That is the main thing. So when we make the main thing, and not the secondary thing, that's when we're allowing our love and wisdom to guide our choices. And when we allow love and wisdom to guide our choices, we immerse ourselves in a deeply meaningful and enriching life. A deeply meaningful and enriching life for which we are more than willing to live and die for. Yep. When I left the US in 1983, after graduation with a master's degree in design, I was willing to die for the practice. I came back to India, went off into the jungles, lived in the caves, did my practice with wild animals and weird things happening around me, willing to put my life on the line just to wake up. And it was that commitment that woke me up. Wishy-washy commitments don't wake you up. So, the beauty in immersing ourselves in a deeply meaningful and enriching life is that we can count on it, we can depend on it to sustain and nurture us in a world where very little is where very little is secure. It's changing. We can depend on it not just to sustain us, protect us, guide us, nurture us in brilliant ways in a world where very little is secure, but living in this manna enriches us in ways which no pleasures, no possessions, no accomplishments, and no accolades could ever match. Nothing comes close to it. That enrichment, that fulfillment, that joy which emerges from being in touch with our calling is beyond compare. Most people are not in touch with their calling. They're just floundering in life, looking for happiness in all the wrong places. Wheel out of kilter. No peace, no fulfillment. Not there. So, how does a deeply meaningful life nurture, sustain, and enrich us? What specifically does this mean? Every living organism has one and only one central need or aim in life. Every living organism has this one central aim or need in life, which is it is the fulfilling of its potentialities in the plural. Yeah, not just the potential, potentialities. And what does this mean, Master B? The acorn doesn't just become a beautiful oak tree. That's not its fulfilling potentialities. That's, yes, it's good. It also nurtures and gives shelter to countless creatures. Ah, that beautiful oak, the home and nourishment for so many creatures, right? That's its potentialities. In an ant colony, we have the queen, and we have the drones, the males that fertilize the queen and then pop off very shortly after. They're happy to do so. Then there are the workers assigned to different tasks. And then in some colonies, there are the soldiers protecting with their bazookas. Yeah, ant colony. An ant colony has just one central aim in mind. What's that? The growth and the survival of their species. That's what they live for, not for awakening. No meditation, no reading books, no dhamma. Just the growth and the survival of their species. And that's what they do their best to fulfill. As human beings, what is our potential? What do we need to fulfill? Our primary task, not secondary, primary, read the malaps. Our primary task is to be a blessing for ourselves and the world around us. That is our primary task. To keep the main thing the main thing. Primary task. When we neglect to fulfill this potential or potentiality within us, when we neglect the goal of our spirit, which is shouting to express itself, when we neglect this goal, we're asking for mega troubles. Mega. Look around you. Look around you. People are not in touch with their spirit. They're in touch with their greed, hatred, and delusions. That's what's driving the people out there, and that's what's making them suffer. We don't want to go down that road. Too many landmines. Okay? Just think how. Think, can do. Think how conclusively and how rapidly we deteriorate when our mind clings to trivia, when it cleaves to trivia, and it makes what is secondary primary. Pleasures, have fun, but that's not what you're living for. That should not be your main driving purpose in life. Possessions, accomplishments, accolades, it's all okay, but it is secondary. We have to keep the main thing in mind. This deterioration doesn't just impair our life, it also inflicts misery upon others. A miserable person will inflict misery upon others by default. Because when suffering is not transformed, it is transmitted into the world around us. This is a natural law, cannot be disputed. When suffering is not transformed, it transmits misery upon the world around us by default. And severe consequences keep galloping into our lives. However, when we do fulfill our potentialities for being a blessing for ourselves and the world around us, we experience the profoundest joy you can ever imagine. And not just that, our rapture, our joy then gets transmitted into the world around us, into this ailing, grieving world around us, to make a little bit of a difference on the planet. A little bit of a difference for the better on this ailing, miserable planet, dying from the misuse of our God-given resources. This powerful mind, when it is misused, creates wars and abuse and addictions and illnesses, and the list goes on. Okay, here's a little story, a very interesting story that highlights how our refinement can inspire others to make better life choices. Whereas our suffering only sparks suffering in others and wrongdoing in others. Okay, here. We're winding up. Here's a story. Many moons ago in Japan, Sister Ayumi-san, a wonderful Dharma practitioner, was traveling in the mountains to meet her son, who lived in a distant village because he was ailing and she was going to look after him. Yeah. Now, Ayumi-san, even though she was a great Dharma practitioner, her karma in that life was such that she was not well off financially. She struggled a little bit financially. Till that day when she set off into the mountains to go and be with her son. As she was scrambling along up the mountain path, she came across a stream. She was tired. Her water bottle was finished, empty. So she decided to stop and take a break and filled the bottle in the stream. And lo and behold, she saw this exquisite ruby, large ruby in the stream. Where did it come from? Her good karma had ripened. Her good karma had ripened in a magnificent way. She would now be secure financially till the end of her days. And she would pass on the security even to her son. A ruby, wow. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. She took the ruby, put it in her handbag, and took out her sushi and her rice cakes to have a little lunch before going further. As she was gobbling her rice cakes and her sushi, there came another traveler, Greedy-san. Yep, Greedy-san comes along, plonks himself on a rock opposite her. They greet each other and start chatting while she's gobbling her sushi and her rice cakes. Well, being polite by nature and compassionate and loving and so forth, Ayumi-san offered him, "Hey, my friend, would you also like to join me for lunch?" And his eyes sparkled. Yeah, yes, I would like. So she opened her bag to get some more food out of it for our friend. And our friend's beady eyes saw the ruby in the bag. And his eyes started to sparkle. After finishing his meal, he started to weave a very sad narrative. Oh, I'm in debt. My life is on the line. If only I had enough money to pay off my debt, me and my family could survive. Oh God, what am I gonna do? Well, I see you have a ruby in there. Will you please give it to me? Amy-san looks at the fellow, looks at the ruby, and says, I've lived without it my whole life. I can certainly go without it for the rest of my life. Here, take it. You need it more than I do. And she gave it to him. Took it, scampered off. They'd exchanged addresses because he was living in the same village as her son. So they said, we'll keep in touch. Yeah, we'll keep in touch. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the ruby. Keep rocking. And he went off. Would you have done what Ayumi-san did? Would you have given him the ruby? When I asked this question in class, one of the students got really upset. Me, I would have just taken his head and dunked it in the stream and said, look for your own ruby. Oh, it was hilarious. The way he got ignited by that question. How we laughed. Anyway, a few days later, knock, knock, knock. Ayumi-san was in her son's house when she heard this knocking on the door. Went up to open it to see our man Greedy-san standing there, looking quite sheepish. She invited him in, and over some refreshments, some tea and so forth, Greedy-san took out the ruby from his little bag, said, here, Ayumi-san, I've been thinking these last few days, I've been thinking. Here's the ruby, you can have it back. I don't want it. I don't want it. I just lied to you. But in exchange for this ruby, I'm giving it back. It's yours. I implore you, Ayumi-san, teach me how to be free from the greed and the fear that plagues me daily. Teach me how to be free. It's exhausting. Show me how. Show me how to embody this immaculate consciousness you have achieved through your practice that allowed you to give me something so precious without an iota of hesitation. How did you do that? How could you do that? And that too, to a complete stranger? Not even a family member? How did you do that? Show me, Ayumi-san. I want to be your student. I will do whatever it takes to learn from you. Moral of the story? When we fulfill our potentialities, we become an inspiration for others to reconstitute themselves and their worldview for the better. Because these guys out there, they're looking for happiness in all the wrong places. Yeah. All right. Let's recap. Let's see how good your memory is. Why Buddhism? Why? Why should you invest the precious time you could use watching Netflix going on shopping sprees, going on vacations, doing other silly things. Why would you want to invest your precious time studying and practicing the Dhamma? What does it have to offer you that would really motivate you to be fully engaged in the practice? Two things. First and foremost, it corrects our faulty worldview. It corrects our monumental misperception of reality that makes us do things the wrong way and suffer the severe consequences of doing so. First primary thing. Now, what does this actually mean? Brothers and sisters, what does this actually mean? To correct our faulty worldview, misperception of reality, actually implies the awakening, no sleepwalking, awakening to the stupendous, immaculate, magnificent mysteries of life. Yes, awakening to life's immaculately supersonic dimensions. And what do we awaken to? Exactly, what does that mean? We see, well, there's no we, but we see our oneness with the fullness of creation. We see that this self, which we like to mollycoddle and protect, doesn't really exist. There is no localized entity called self that is different from the entire universe. Nope. There's a seamless whole. There is no boundary between self and other. This boundary does not exist. This exists only when our consciousness is dim, spiritually illiterate. We awaken to the magnificence of what we are in essence. The elation that arises from this insight or from this awakening is beyond compare, because it frees us complete, immaculate freedom from everything that ails us, everything that disturbs our equilibrium. We finally know true peace, true bliss, true joy beyond measure. That's why we practice the Dhamma. Regardless of the hardships involved, that's why we practice the Dhamma. We awaken to the true nature of reality. We are one with the universe. The power of the universe, right here. It's not me and there. It's not even one. Even in that one, there's no one. But these are words. These are just words. We have to experience it. So first, benefit. The correcting of our worldview implies awakening to the immaculate nature of reality. Secondly, it is from this awakening that we are able to perceive life from a perspective that creates enthrallment in us in the simplest of things. Simplest of things. A pencil. Oh, wow. Yeah, a pencil. You can spend the whole day like a child, witnessing the magnificence of this reality. Everything satisfies. Everything is fulfilling. The pain and the sorrow and the misery that may come our way because of our unwholesome deeds from the past. Everything is welcome. Our approach and responses to life are in perfect harmony with reality. No more resistance. Okay? Another thing is that when we approach things correctly, when we perceive things correctly, we see without a shadow of a doubt that we are not here on this planet to scramble towards happiness. During our brief time on this planet, it's not happiness that is the primary issue. Nope. The primary issue, the main thing, which we need to keep as the main thing, is to awaken to our innermost splendor. Awaken to that. Because when we awaken to our innermost splendor, we are basically fulfilling our potentialities. Because it's not just we that bless ourselves. We don't just experience the blessing ourselves. Everybody benefits because we are the whole. Everybody benefits in the farthest corner of the universe. Everybody benefits. No localized entity. It's all one. And that one itself, so mysterious. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more classes. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Keep on rocking and keep on keeping the main thing as the main thing. Over and out.